If you're a Florida landowner, I want to let you know that there are lots of alternative uses for your property where you can bring in revenue. That could be pine straw, it could be hunting leases, or, like I want to show you today, Yaupon Holly.
Yaupon Holly, grown wild and free in the southern heat, where it likes to
If you like
be.
foraging for food that's free, and you like caffeine, and you like making things that are healthy for you, probably better than the caffeine you're already drinking, and you live anywhere from Florida to Texas to Delaware, then you need to look no further than this plant, Yaupon Holly. It's one of the dominant understory plants here. I've been in Florida for the last year trying to help landowners utilize this amazing area that they live in by making videos about the plants and animals. Recently burned, and he's gonna fill us in. It looks like this. Very important. This plant, Yaupon Holly, stood out to me because so few people know about the amazing benefits of this plant, its historical use, and the fact that it could be their daily caffeine source. And thanks to my friend Yuri, a world-renowned entomologist here at the University of Florida, he connected me to the guru. We have the world's expert here on Yaupon Holly. He won't say so. This is Yaupon Holly, right
This
there.
is Yaupon Holly, but this was the one that had the highest caffeine content. It's the only native caffeine producing plant in North America.
Turns out he was part of a team of scientists that were studying this plant for another project. And then they ran it through their mass spectrometer and discovered that not only did it have the caffeine we knew about, but it had all sorts of other compounds like theobromine and a ton of antioxidants. And he explained that even though it's not super common now, it was the caffeinated plant in the Americas.
Thousands of years ago, it was traded all over North America. There were people who were presumably paddling up the Mississippi River with bags of Yaupon.
And the big question is, why aren't we using this as much today as we used to?
Yaupon was a very important daily beverage, just like yerba mate is now in the southern cone. It's a close relative, very similar chemistry.
More of you probably know about yerba mate. It's in the same genus, Ilex. But unlike yerba mate, some unfortunate events in our history made it an unpopular drink.
Yaupon became associated with poor people and Amerindians.
So it seems it was partly because of a historical popularity contest and branding. You can literally just go into the woods and pick this, so it wasn't rare, and thus, not cool to drink. I think that is all changing though as the popularity of native plants and foraging native things come back into favor. Something to put on your radar, you can look it up, Yaupon Holly.
Wow.
In fact, in health food stores, you can buy stuff like this.
It's the fanciest thing in the store.
But there is still one funny thing about this plant. The name is Ilex vomitoria, and that alone makes it kind of hard to market.
Got its reputation and its name, Ilex vomitoria, from a ceremony called the Black Drink Ceremony, practiced by the Timucuans and adopted by the Seminoles after them, and recorded by early ethnographers who came to the area.
In the black tea ceremony, they'd take Yaupon, crush the leaves, and extract what we would have as a tea, but boil it down until it became a black syrup. Before important events like wars or harvests, there would be a ritual consumption of this highly concentrated extract of Yaupon. Often it was accompanied by fasting and sleep deprivation for several days. They would fill their bellies with it and then vomit.
Caffeine is an emetic. That concentration of caffeine, it's no surprise that they would vomit. It was ritual vomiting. Ritual vomiting happens all over the world. I mean, this is something that people do to cleanse themselves. The Anglo-Saxon chroniclers were horrified by this, because they had lost that.
In fact, the major distributors of this tea were so concerned that the name would be a problem for consumers that they all banded together stating that the name was degrading in some way to the people who originally used it in ceremony. Botanists, however, who create these names were not convinced, and so that name still sticks around. But it's important to remember that this ceremonial drinking of the tea was not always how it was consumed.
They had it as a daily beverage too. They called it the white tea drink, and they would whip it, and so it had a froth to it.
I have Yaupon daily. It's amazing. And as opposed to coffee, where you have a rush of awareness and productivity, and then you have a crash and I want to sleep. I don't have that after Yaupon.
I've always wondered if it was the balance between the alkaloids.
Now let's talk about the different alkaloids, polyphenols, and saponins found in this plant. Theobromine and caffeine are the most popular. They are central nervous system stimulants and energy boosters. Caffeine also contains an antioxidant activity. Additionally, you have theophylline, which is an anti-inflammatory agent and is used for management of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Theacrine has anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. Polyphenols like chlorogenic acid have antibacterial activity and also an anti-obesity and anti-diabetic effect. Flavonols like rutin, camphorol, and quercetin have cardioprotective activities and chemopreventative effects. Finally, saponin is great as an antioxidant and an antimicrobial. Of course, the magic, so to speak, is that these compounds stack together, making it ideal for mental and physical health. I know some of you now are going to be worried about identification. You're looking for a little shrub with little leaves about that big that are alternate on the stem. You see how they alternate? 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Each individual leaf is not smooth on the edges, it's just a little bit wavy. Can't go into the full identification in a video like this because it can get a little bit boring. I would, however, suggest you go to iNaturalist. You can take your phone out, you can scan a leaf, and it will do a pretty good job of telling you, are you looking at Yaupon Holly? You could also do a search for where have other people spotted Yaupon Holly. We found a location on the map out here on the beach, and we went out and filmed a little bit more of it. Now, let me show you how to make Yaupon tea. Of course, this whole process is really easy. It's almost not worth showing.
Harvesting Yaupon, you go to a branch and you strip the branch off, and then you take the Spanish moss out, and then you have the leaves.
Basically, you can either put them in the oven, 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, or you can fry them on a little skillet like this. This helps break down the cell walls and allows the compounds to then get into the tea. Now you have the dry leaves. When they're dry, you crush it up and you add it to a drink with hot water, just like a green tea. Now my take on all this is that it seems better than coffee. Not just for the compounds in it, but definitely from an ecological standpoint.
You grow coffee mostly in areas that are deforested, and certainly tea, you go in and you clear cut a montane forest, bulldoze it, and then you plant tea. So that's a tragedy from an environmental standpoint. And then you put it on a ship, you transport it halfway around the world, and you package it, and impact on the environment is very substantial. In contrast, going out into your yard, and I mean it because it's such a common cultivated shrub, and stripping off some leaves, you know, it takes a big handful to make a good cup of tea, but the plant responds, and it's not a problem. It's quite robust. And no shipping, no packaging, and plus you're there in nature doing something, and that's just such a wonderful thing in this time of concrete and sterile landscapes. But because this grows both in the wild and as a cultivated shrub, there's potential that it could work its way into the suburbs.
I think the only thing stopping everyone from using Yaupon Holly is that we still retain this fear of harvesting wild foods. I also think we hold on to this idea that nature's out there and we're here and we should absolutely not touch it. Because if you keep that mentality, this separation of nature, then you can't enjoy this connection we could be having with the nature all around us.
It is such an easy way to have a ceremony with nature.
I hope now you are convinced to try, at the very least, Yaupon tea. And if you're a landowner in the South, in other words, you own some sort of land anywhere where this is found, then maybe you could have it on your property and you could harvest tea every day. How cool would that be? So we'll see you in another video, maybe in the woods one day.
Yaupon Holly.
If you live anywhere where Ilex vomitoria is grown, you can have it on your property. I'm doing videos specifically for Florida landowners at myfloridaforest.land, but you can extrapolate that to pretty much the whole southeast and sometimes the eastern deciduous forest. Check out the other videos. They are resources for landowners. I'm very excited to share them, and I hope you get a lot out of them too.